WhiskyJason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American over here in Germany. Today I'm comparing two whiskeys. I have Michter's Unblended American Whiskey 12A-14, and I have here Michter's American Whiskey Unblended L22E2459. So the L22 means lot, which means the year that it was bottled. This was bottled 2022. And this is, according to my information, this was bottled 2012. So it's 10 years of difference between the two of these. All right. Now, the very, very first thing that happened when I opened these up is the cork broke. It was sawdust. It fell into the bottle. I had to use a nice little sieve, take everything out, very, very fine sieve, and be able to do this whiskey review here with you. Now, why am I doing this? But Jason, it's an old versus new. We know that old is always better. But listen to me. All right, so Michter's has basically, they're calling it 3 different facilities. They have the Fort Nelson distillery in Louisville, Kentucky. That is a tourist trap, a beautiful, nice tourist trap, but no way in the world could they produce enough whiskey there for the world. Michter's is available in, I don't know, 80 different countries. Never, never, never. All right, we have Michter's Springfield Farm where they have warehousing, and they have the Michter's Shively and Louisville, Kentucky, the distillery. Now, according to their own information on their own website, michters.com, that is so located in Shively, the section of Louisville with a legendary whiskey heritage. Michter's distillery is a 12.8 acre, 87,000 square foot facility, a fully licensed distillery, distilled spirit plant. We have DSP number KY 20,003. And the facility is currently home to all of Michter's processing and bottling operations, as well as 2 of its small pot stills. Additionally, in October 2014, Michter's instilled a custom-built 32-inch diameter, 46-foot high copper column still with a distinctive copper pot still doubler made by Vendome. So they basically started distilling their own spirit 2014, which is fabulous. Now, this was bottled 2012. Now, even if the 14 in the end meant 4, but it's 10 years ago, basically, this was bottled. And also your Michter's 10, your Michter's 20, none of that was made by Michter's. Now, at the very, very beginning of my journey with Michter's about 10 years ago, I was very disillusioned because they were saying back then, about 10 years ago, and it's still here on the label, all right, this is Michter's pre-revolutionary recipe from the year 1753, and it's just like, we have our heritage, we're from Schaefersville, Pennsylvania, and all this, and it's like, no, you're not. All right, so Michter's, as we now know, as they present, there's the old Michter's distillery where you have your Bambergers, you have your Schenks, and you have your Schaefersville, Pennsylvania, where the father had a son named Michael and Peter, and they put the 2 names together and turned into Michter's, and this brand, this distillery basically died, and the brand laid unused for many years. And now the current founder and owner of the modern day Michter said, hey, let's resurrect this brand and let's buy sourced whiskeys at the beginning and then let's put this brand back on the market. So they had the rye, they had the bourbon, standard. They went for a sour mash, which meant, hey, we don't have 51% corn in there. That's different. And we have something just like Ancient Age used to do with Brown-Forman. We have a American Unblended, which means we're using not new charred oak containers, but rather used. They call it bourbon-soaked barrels, which is great. Ancient Age used it for many years. They use it for many years. And that's fine. I love their products, all right? Good stuff. I just did not like at the beginning, which they no longer do, is to try to claim the heritage way, way back. And then they had the source whiskeys and they built their own distillery about 10 years ago. And so they now have their own products, their own produced juice, which I think is great. All right, now, back in the old days, in this bottle, it says here, bottled by Michter's American Whiskey, Bardstown, Kentucky. So it says Bardstown still here. Here it says, and this is what really kind of angers me, it says here, bottled by Michter's Distillery, Louisville, Kentucky. So why am I angered? Because it does not say distilled by. Bottled by is the unique information that we as a consumer receive and say, it's sourced. And the question is this still sourced or not? I had the opportunity at the BCB in October of 2023 to talk, I think it was 2023, could have been 2022, with one of the vice presidents of Michter's. He was over here, a vice president for sales. We talked and I said, when are you going to finally put on the label distilled by? And he told me as soon as everything's been transitioned, and as soon as we've had enough time to say, hey, no one notices the difference, we're going to finally put on the label distilled by. So, okay, I understand, no problem, go for it. And then I was like, wait a second, we just did a blind tasting just a few months earlier with the German brand ambassador for Michter's, Miss Sandra Winters, and we had the rye blind, we had Bombaga, we had Shanks, we had the sour mash, we had the bourbon, and we had the unblended. And the unblended was uncharacteristically the loser of the evening. Usually that is the winner. Either the rye or the unblended are the two that I love the most. And it just lost. And even she was like, that's uncharacteristic. That's unnormal. And it's like, wait a second. Okay, is there a connection? Did we have sourced whiskey, where it came from? Industry experts have told me, shh, Brown Foreman. But hey, who knows? Or do we actually have their own produced whiskeys? So there's been that transition to their own juice here, and we notice a difference. Can we notice a difference? I went far enough back in time, I hope, 10 years ago. Of course, this is sourced. I now have a bottle from 2022. Not far enough. 2023 would have been better. I have not seen anything 2024 yet. We in Europe get about one big shipment of Michter's a year, and that just came. Should have come. October came, I think, end of November, January, end of November, December, and so I could have had a 2023 if I really, really looked, but I had this bottle and I used that. So that's what that is. So for those of you that are actually here and want to learn more about Michter's Unblended, American whiskey is the category that can use 20% straight bourbon, and you can add up to 80% grain neutral spirits. So basically 95% more alcohol made from grain. Vodka, if you want, all right? So Everclear is what other people say. Now, the law says for bourbon to be bourbon, it has to be actually matured in new American oak. And so this is in used casks. They can use their own casks. They can dump them, roll them around from the dumping facility to the filling facility, maybe one building further, maybe the same building, and refill the casks literally within hours, within days. Over here in Europe, if I want to buy a freshly dumped bourbon barrel, it's put onto a container. The container shipped travels all the way over to Europe. It's going to be 4, maybe 6 weeks before I can get my hands on those barrels. So they're not bourbon soaked, freshly dumped, but they're just ex-bourbon barrels. Now here they have a wonderful, wonderful thing. They can use their own recipe there and then reuse those barrels again, and I think that's great. I have no information whatsoever that they actually use the barrels more than twice. Once for their first product, probably the bourbon, and second time for their unblended. This has to be, it's the law in America, every single American whiskey, not just the straight bourbons, every single American whiskey under the age of under the age of 4, German word for 4, under the age of 4 has to have on the label someplace that age. If you're over 4, you don't have to. It's basically of age. Now you can put a 5, you can put an 8, you can put a 12, you can be happy and put a 23 on there, but you don't have to. Now the other thing over here in Europe, whiskey has to be at least 3 years of age. So you could do an American whiskey that is basically 2 months, but you couldn't sell it as whiskey over here. All right, good. At least not in Europe. Now the very, very first thing that I see here, I don't know, I think you can see it as well. I feel that the unblended is darker than the from 2014. 2012 is darker than the from 2022. On the nose, I get a little bit of a green youthfulness with a lot of grain forwardness. Over here, I get more of a honeycomb, more of a chocolatey type of moment, and a little bit more of wood. It's softer as well. There is definitely, for me at least, a noticeable difference between the product 10 years ago and the product now. Is that because of different grains? Is it because of different barrels? I think it's because of different production facilities. I think this was made in, it doesn't even say Kentucky on it. So, bottled by. So I think this was made someplace, I think it was made someplace in Kentucky, and this was made at their own plant. Now, interesting enough, I could take, it's not even a straight product, wow. I could take whiskey from Louisville, from Bardstown, from Loretto, if I want to, any place within Kentucky, put it all together, put it into into the bottle, and just call it American whiskey in this case. I mean, there's even straight whiskeys. You can put anything together from one state and just call it straight. The distillery does not have to say, okay, distilled in this one place, unless, and this is what we love about American whiskey, unless it's bottle and bond. Bottle and bond, you have to put actually the distilled spirits plant, the DSP number, as well as the bottling plant number. If it's different on the label, to tell us where it has been made. But straight just means, hey, from one single state. And then, of course, if you take something from Indiana and put together Kentucky, you got a blend of straight whiskeys. But we're not going there at the moment. Let's try these. Is there a definite difference? What surprises me, I've emptied one or two of these bottles of the unblended in the past, and this one is younger. It tastes a lot like bottom shelf bourbon. 90% of all bourbon that comes to Europe, especially 90% of all bourbon that comes to Germany, actually is brought over in these tanker containers. 45, maybe 40, 50,000 liters, boom, we bring it over. We pay the tariffs, we pay the value on that, very, very low. We bottle it in Europe, and then that increases the value of the whiskey, and we save a lot of money. All right, so we save shipping, we save costs, we save a lot of import taxes and other types of excise taxes by doing that way. So 90%. So we have a lot of supermarket whiskey here, supermarket bourbon here in Germany and so on. And we have Jack Daniels. Not every single bottle of Jack Daniels brought over here in the bottle. It's brought over here in these tanker containers, and they bottle it here, which is just fine. Pennypacker has done it for many, many years, and other places as well. Absolutely okay. Now this tastes a little bit like that. It's a little bit green still. Reminds me a little bit like a Green River whiskey. It's not bad, but it's not the characteristic wonderfulness that I have come to appreciate from Michter's unblended US #1 whiskey here. A little bit of palate cleansing and going over the old bottle. Did I mention how extremely disappointed I was when I turned the cork and I pulled it and I just had half the cork here in my hand? That was really a bummer. And then I tried to pull the cork out, and then of course it fell in and it just dissolved into sawdust. It was just mm. 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 I forgot one point. Oh yeah, much more honey, much more of a chocolatey. It reminds me of a 12-year-old W.O. Weller sometimes. Very, very nice. Without the strong wood tannins taking over, but a nice complexity. Now, many of you know, but I'm just going to remind me and us. It says here on the back of the barrel, on the back of the bottle here, Where do we have it here? In Michter's tradition, hailing from one of America's finest distillers, this whiskey is made from highest quality American grains and matured to the peak of perfection in bourbon-soaked white oak barrels. We know what that means. It is then further mellowed by our signature filtration. Now, if we have non-chilled filtered with single malt scotch, we're like, yay, that's what we want. Now, the question is, do we want non-chilled filtration with our bourbons? I did recently a video about the Wild Turkey rare breed non-chilled filtered 1 liter bottle versus the normal. The first time I did it, I preferred the normal. The second time I did it, I preferred the non-chilled filter. Has more tannin, has more oak. Michters, for each and every one of their products, they have their own filtration scheme, their own filtration method. So you can bring it down to 8%, you can bring it down to 3%, you can vary the openness of the pores of the filtration there, and you can decide how much oak you can take out. Because tannins you can filter out with filtration. And so that's one of the secrets of Michter's 10 and 20-year-old that there's there. They filter. They filter the tannins out so that it's not a wood bomb, but rather something that is more acceptable to most of our palates. And so the rye has a different filtration, the sour mash, the bourbon, and also the unblended has a certain filtration. We can thank Mr. Willie Pratt back then, the master distiller at the beginning, and Pam Hellman, who's also gone. We can thank her as well for what she's done there for that filtration. And I really feel that this is well done. New Riff, for example, non-chilled filtered. This filtered. Good. I would give this whiskey a solid B. On a good day, maybe a B+, but a solid B. I would give this whiskey a solid C. That's a major difference in my grading system. All right. So there's a major difference for me between these two. And I feel very, very confirmed that the older stuff was much better. And now, is it just old bottle flavor here that we just have left in the bottles for so long? I just opened these up today. Sent out some samples. That's why the bottle level is a little bit lower here. I have not tried all this, but hey, imagine if you want to. The old stuff is better. Now, the question that I have is for me, and maybe for you, is if we have a Michter's unblended product in 6 to 8 years from now, not just 4 to 6 years, will it actually almost reach or surpass this? It could be. And that's something that's kind of cool. All right, so I expect good things continuing on from Michter's. The owner who started the brand back, or resurrected the brand, Mr. Giuliano, whatever. He's just been inducted into the Kentucky Hall of Fame. Great guy, wonderful. What he's done for the Kentucky whiskey business worldwide and globally is just amazing. This has been one of the pioneers of putting a brand into Germany from the US. They've done a fantastic job of premiumization of bourbon in Germany. 50 euros is what they used to cost. They now cost about 55. Still wonderful products, and people try it, like it, and go buy new ones. And that's what we want with American whiskeys over here in Europe. And I'm really thankful for Michter's for all they've done, and I think they're going to continue to do great stuff in the future. Last question of the day. What is your favorite Michter's product? I love the rye. What do you love? Thank you very much for watching, liking, subscribing, telling others. WhiskyJason here. Bye-bye.